All right, how's it going? Today is January 26, 2020. It is Today in Art. I got another good one for you. This one comes from the New York Times. They're talking about a surging art experts warn of a surging market in fake prints. They're basically talking about how prints are some of the most easiest ones to be forged, because it's easier to forge a print than it is, say, like an actual painting. They're talking about another big issue too, is the fact of online sales. I mean, I sell my art online as well. If you don't know, I'm also an artist, but I figure I do try to keep up with like weekly art news to inform myself and to inform you, the listener, as well. But I will say, if you're going to spend a pretty significant amount of money purchasing art, I probably wouldn't pay over, I guess, $1,000 if you don't actually physically see it in person beforehand. But that's just me. But I also, personally speaking, also like sell more at art sales where you can where the viewers can actually like look at it and stuff too. So we'll get into this. It says, spurred by advances in photomechanical reproduction, forgers are increasingly selling unauthorized copies of famous works on the internet and elsewhere. If you're listening on the audio here, it's like a Roy Lichtenstein one of the Crying Girl in 1963. It's an offset lithograph. I know what a lithograph is, but I'm not sure what offset means, what type of lithograph that is. But he did the large like comic type prints where it's like kind of the shadings, like the dots and stuff. This article came out January 24th. In Basel, the Swiss authorities are prosecuting a local art expert who they say sold hundreds of fake prints that he passed off online as the work of Roy Lichtenstein, Andy Warhol, Paul Klee, Pablo Picasso, and others over 10 years. In New York, Audrina R. Fields now spends much of her work week scanning the internet for forged prints that pop up at website after website. She is head of the legal department for the Artists' Rights Society, which protects the intellectual property rights of artists in their states. See, I never heard of that before, the Artists' Rights Society. I'm assuming that's for more famous artists of the past, if I had to guess. It happens every day that Audrina sends a takedown notice to a website, said Ted Feeder, the president of the society. The two cities, almost 4,000 miles apart, are both on the front lines of the fight against the sale of fake prints. Since the dawn of the internet, the problem of phony art being sold has only grown. Experts say in the primary coin of the forgery realm has long been the fake print, which is relatively easy to create, often difficult to detect, and typically priced low enough to attract undiscriminating novice buyers. Now, if you just want to purchase art online and spend, maybe like $100, I mean, you can do that. But when you're purchasing something that's supposedly like maybe like an historical piece or like a dead artist, like famous artwork, a lot of the prints too, if you get like certain lithographs, intaglio etchings and stuff, there's certain prints that just won't be printed on a piece of paper and be fine. If you look at it, you can see kind of like a little indent where they had to have the pressure to go through. But if you're doing stuff like screen prints, then that won't be on there. So the more you know about the actual process of what the artwork is supposed to have been, the better you'll be able to recognize to a certain degree if it is maybe or it isn't a fake. But now the problem seems to be escalating, according to law enforcement officials in the United States and Europe. In the last few years, we have confiscated hundreds of fakes that forgers and dealers said were Lichtenstein, George Bolet's, Picasso, and others. that came from Italy, Spain, and Portugal, said Alina Spahik, an officer with the Bavarian police in Munich who specializes in art forgery. Timothy Carpenter, supervising special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation art crime team. I'm surprised the FBI has an art crime team. I thought that was just a TV thing. Said that the proliferation of online art sales have deepened the problem. Before, you had to find a way to get to the market, but e-commerce has changed the game. Yeah, because when you would do forgeries and just scams in the past, it'd be like, you have to be kind of good at sales and like face-to-face stuff. And now with the internet, you can just throw something up, kind of advertise it some, and be on your merry way. That also leads into a lot of like copyright issues too. Kind of like my last video, if you want to check that out with I think it was Aaron Carter that was using somebody else's art to promote his work. The most prevalent fake prints are those falsely attributed to Liechtenstein and Warhol, experts say, but forgers have also brought to market multitudes of fake Picassos, Klees, and Gerhard Richters, as well as phony works attributed to Mark Chagall, John Miro, Salvador Dali, and Henry Matisse. I guess if you just want the image and you find one, well, it depends whether it's like legally sold through their estate or not. I'm sure they just have like prints you can buy, like almost like posters and postcards and stuff, probably for like $25 if you just want to have something. But if you're like buying something that's supposed to be an actual, piece of artwork, like depending on the paper too, it wouldn't just be, depending on how much you actually know about this, it wouldn't just be like normal kind of printer paper. It'd be like, a lot of times it would be maybe like a heavier, like 100% cotton paper, or even maybe like a thin rice paper. So you got to really kind of, if you're going to spend a good amount of money, like really research it, then maybe have like an actual art expert look at it if they can. And we'll get into something here with somebody who did that after the fact. Improvements in photomechanical reproduction techniques have made it easier for forgers to produce deceptive fake prints. A real good reproduction can fool a lot of experts, says John Soak, a Manhattan dealer in Picasso and Edward Munch prints. Detecting the forgeries is not simple, he said. It's the color of the paper, the quality of the printing, the condition of the print, all of which you compare with the original, he said. And then you need years and years of experience. The problem is also not limited to online outlets. Susan Sehan, a New York dealer in post-war American prints, said that 18 months ago she bought what she thought were 2 Andy Warhol flower prints for $100,000 at a major German auction house. I bought them after seeing high-resolution photographs online, she said. The provenance was superb, but when I got the prints, I got suspicious. The paper was shiny, the number on the prints were too large, the surface of the prints looked too new. Yeah, I would think it, especially being shiny, would be like somebody printed something off almost. Because a lot of times the paper will be, like I was saying, it's kind of like a thicker, kind of like matte, dull, watercolor-esque type paper. Because printing paper and watercolor paper, depending on what texture, a lot of those will be close to the same. I wanted more professional advice. Miss Sehan continued and took them to 2 of the major auction houses in New York. They said the prints were fake. I scraped myself off the floor, but eventually, after 6 months, I got my money back. Luckily, she got it through an auction house, and she got her money back. So I would assume that the auction house themselves got fooled. But like I was saying, spend like $100,000. I haven't bought any expensive. I've bought some artworks from other artists, but nothing, not thousands of dollars. The term print is a broad one. Traditionally used to describe a number of types of original fine artworks, such as etchings, lithographs, and woodcuts. They are produced in limited editions through a range of processes. In each case, the artist creates an image and works with a publisher or printer to produce the set number, often destroying the plate, the stone, or other matrix used after printing. It's getting late. Often the artist will sign and number each print with a marking that says it was, say, 12 of 200. Also, there's other things here they don't mention, like there's like a set edition print, like something of 200, but some people may not look or may not know there could be like an AP. There's like an artist print. I think there's like a TP, but there's like certain other prints too. So if you see like a weird one that isn't like a numerical number, but it has like AP, it could be, that could still be legitimate. The fakes, on the other hand, are typically photomechanical reproductions of the originals. Like I was saying, they're like kind of actual, like almost inkjet print-offs instead of like actual traditional processes. The forgeries are made by people with no connection to the artist and are sold as his or her work. They will often be accompanied by phony signatures from the artist or bogus certificates of authenticity. Then it's showing John Stoke, I'm not sure how to say his last name, a dealer and specialist at Picasso, holds a real print by the artist in his Manhattan office. If you can't, obviously you can't see if you're listening to audio, but he's holding the prints here, and if you're on YouTube, you can kind of see there's almost like this line where there's an indent. So that can kind of be a giveaway too. Such is the case with many prints erroneously sold as the work of Liechtenstein, but his are, well, I guess his was like lithographs, weren't they? The pop artist made about 300 different images into print. Some date back to his first one-man exhibition at the Leo Castella Gallery in the early 1960s, when unsigned prints of his comic strip Fighters and Seductive Blondes were just given away at the gallery to attract attention to the show. Others were folded up and mailed to collectors. So, if you happen to go to, say, like here in Columbus, we have what do they call it? Like the first Saturday each month, they have like gallery hop. That's what it is. So, I mean, if you happen to go to these things and you get something like that, I mean, hold on to it. You never know. 10, 20, 30 years later, it may turn into something. But the prints created through offset lithography have become more valuable over time, especially a limited edition of 300 signed by Liechtenstein. These can fetch anywhere from $5,000 to $80,000 today. So the forgers, hoping to capitalize on the surge in value, have been known to take one of Castelli's prints, add a fixed signature, create a bogus certificate of authenticity, and put it forward as a signed work from the limited edition. The bogus prints have sold for as much as $50,000. I think it's people that have, a great amount of money to throw into art, certain art pieces, and maybe don't know as much as they should. Or maybe they don't get advice, or bad advice, or not experienced advice, and they get taken advantage of, essentially. The Liechtenstein estate, according to a representative, has been sending cease and desist notices to sellers of prints not recognized as authentic and reaching out to the FBI. The estate says neither it nor the Liechtenstein Foundation has ever issued certificates of authenticity. If a buyer is offered a certificate of authenticity, it is false, the estate said in a statement. So if you're looking for a Liechtenstein and it comes with a certificate of authenticity, it's false. Ms. Sheehan, the dealer, said the most faked Warhol prints are ones that mimic two limited editions he made, one of Marilyn Monroe and the other of flowers. An original Marilyn print can sell for as much as $300,000, she said. I'm surprised it's not the Campbell soup can or like the Coke prints. I've been in the business for 30 years, and some people say there are more fake Warhols than real ones. Miss Sheehan said. He made several hundred prints. When I see a real Warhol, I say, oh my God, a real Warhol. Sometimes the fakes are so good, it's astonishing. Sometimes I have to look at a print for 3 or 4 days to decide it doesn't ring right. This individual in his office. For me, I think if I paid, say I was wanting a Warhol and I paid, I don't know, maybe you found one. It looks like it may or may not be for like if I bought one for like $100, if it's fake, I kind of think it would be. It depends if you want, it goes back to, it depends if you want just the image of the poster on your wall, or if you're like seriously collecting and it's becoming at that point like an actual financial investment. Experts say a major problem with many prints sold as Picasso is that they feature phony signatures. While Picasso made a lot of prints, about 2,400, he did not sign a large number of them. Yet it is quite easy to find signed prints in the marketplace. Experts say some of them are fake and some of them are actual Picassos with a phony signature added. There are probably thousands of prints with fake Picasso signatures, said Mr. Sok, the dealer. Among the most coveted Picasso prints are the many of the 100 etchings from the Velours suite, which is named after the dealer and publisher Ambrose Velours. Picasso made them between 1930 and 1937 in response to a request by Velours, who compensated him by giving him works he owned by Renoir and Cezanne. I wouldn't mind having some Renoir and Cezanne. Some of the images depict an artist in a studio. Others feature women who resemble Marie Therese Walter, Picasso's lover at the time. A complete set of the suite signed by Picasso was sold at Christie's last November for $4,815,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of damage. Here's an image of some of the prints. It's saying the one on the top is an actual print, and the one on the bottom is a forgery. But even the forgery has the indent, so if the forgerer knows what they're doing in the history behind the prints, they may know how to replicate them. When Picasso was in his 50s, he was not always in the mood to sign a large amount of prints, said Mark Rosen, a private dealer and former senior vice president at Sotheby's. In market terms, the signature is relevant, but what gives value is the quality of the print. Signatures should be secondary. People who buy solely for the signature are idiots, says Mark. Major online selling platforms like Amazon, eBay, and Etsy say they have created protocols to weed out fakes and are working towards additional safeguards. Because I have an actual online store through Etsy that I'll plug right now. It's was it Christopher Art? Yeah, I'll plug that. But Etsy is handmade or like vintage work, like nothing mass produced. Amazon and eBay is obviously different, but Etsy is supposed to be made. They're supposed to be in the mind for creators. Etsy is committed to maintaining the integrity of our marketplace, the company said in a statement. We already have robust policies, processes, tools, and teams in place to identify and remove items that may interfere with intellectual property rights. In a statement, eBay said it swiftly reviews and removes items it suspects may be fakes when it receives a complaint. Counterfeits and unauthorized copies are illegal and not welcome on any of eBay's sites, it said. But Ms. Fields on the Right Society said a lot of fakes still slip through in various locations online. It's an uphill battle, she said. One fake can be shown on many websites, but you don't know who the provider is. Prices range from $10 to tens of thousands of dollars. Hubris Boutin, an art historian who is writing a book on art forgery, said the biggest problem with fake prints is that they are subject to the principle of internal reoccurrence. Usually they do not disappear, he said, after they are exposed, but somehow find their way back into circulation in the art market. When a faked object is not seized by the police from the forgers, their accomplices or the dealers and collectors, the owners, or their heirs can put it back into circulation at some point. Some of the forgers resurfaced too, even after multiple arrests. Vincent Loparetto has been imprisoned 3 times in connection with the sale of fraudulent artwork, often fake Damien Hirst prints. He is now serving a 5.5 to 11-year sentence in a New York State prison after a 2017 conviction on charges of grand larceny and scheming to defraud. When Mr. Loparetto was last released from prison in 2015, he returned to the business of selling phony art prints just 15 days later, according to Manhattan District Attorney's Office, which has prosecuted Mr. Loparetto twice. So going back to what I said earlier, it's going back if you're just wanting to buy an image of art, or if you're actually doing kind of a financial investment into maybe a historical piece. If you're going to spend a large amount of money, whatever large amount of money is to you, I mean, it's subjective. Like for me, anything over 1,000, I'd not solely online stuff. Large amount of money. Make sure, I would say, in some way you can actually physically look at it, or have somebody that you know and you trust, or is like a reputable, art dealer or something like that, be able to look at it. I mean, even then, it could still be a fake. You may not know it, but that will help to some degree. But, yeah, so I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. But, like I said, this has been Today in Art. This is January 26, 2020. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you like it, you can give me a like. Really like it, you can subscribe. If not, you can vote it down, you can comment, you can tell me why. If you're listening on the podcast, that's great. But, all right. Later.